Hello and welcome back to the 2 by 2 the podcast for independent consultants, solopreneurs, and anybody else crazy like me. Hi, everybody. Today I am talking about my tech stack. We're going to do this AMA style, Ask Me Anything. I have a bit of an Achilles heel, and that is I love tinkering with the technology. I have burned a lot of hours on this. But what I found is that when you're running any kind of an independent business, that everything goes through you and that the amount of time you give to your work or to the admin of your business is time you're taking away from your life. And when you use technology and you use ready-made platforms that help you speed that up, everything is better. We are living in the time of AI, and that is exciting. But long before the time of AI, there have been, lots of solutions that we've used. This is not any kind of a conversation specific to AI. In fact, I think that's more of a distraction to your business than it might be a help. We'll get to that in a second. But first, when did I realize I needed a tech stack? Let's start there. I realized I needed a tech stack when I forgot to send an invoice. Nothing makes you wake up and realize that you need to pay attention to the details, like forgetting to get paid. And QuickBooks, you want to call it part of your tech stack because you need it for bookkeeping, fine. But I think it's barely tech. I realized I needed a better way that wasn't a paper list to keep me organized. And I would say that was the beginning of when I really felt like I needed a tech stack. All right, so let's get into it. We have a new feature on our website, the2by2.com, that allows all of you listeners and readers to submit your questions. And so these questions are drawn from that, as well as some inbound that I've gotten in our messages and emails from people. All right. We've talked about when did I need it and why I needed it. Let's talk about why, other than time, why do you really need it? I think you got to think about your tech stack as an opportunity to reduce the friction in your business. All right. So it's going to save you time. But I think your objective here with any technology you string together is to help unlock activities and make them string together to move faster. All right. And the goal is to give you back your time, obviously, but really fewer. I mean, at first, I think it's just fewer dropped balls, right? Like, don't forget that invoice. Don't forget to follow up. Use it as a tool to prod you to do something. The next layer of kind of why you need it, I think, is because it can do things for you. It helps you make fewer decisions. I mean, I think a lot of the value in having a set of automations or technology working behind the scenes is that it reduces your context switching. And as a consultant who's trying to, or fractional maybe, trying to balance multiple clients, even in business development, you're moving from topic to topic to topic, and that is exhausting for your brain. And that exhaustion then results in you doing worse work. So anything that can reduce either decisions or reduce mental fatigue can help. Taking these I'll call them low value, but in some cases they are actually high value tasks off of you and your brains and your fingertips on the keyboard. Is it's a thing that saves your mental energy is kind of the goal of this. All right. Next question. What are the basic tools you'd recommend for new consultants? Okay. I think we can look at this in two ways. First, you could say bottoms up. Let's say you're like really new. Okay. Like you're just getting started in this. I think the first thing you need is a secure email address. Kind of goes without saying, but I don't know how many consultants I've spoken to who have been doing biz dev or projects here and there for months or even a year who are working on Gmail. Just don't do that. Not only is it's not secure, first of all, but I think it doesn't really make you seem very credible if you're working with a Gmail address. A business address is incredibly easy to get. You can buy a domain and get it from your domain provider. My recommendation, though, is that you actually start with, I'm a Microsoft user. I'm a PC user. I'm not a Mac person. So that makes me not cool. I don't really care anymore. I recommend Microsoft 365 to everybody. The reason I recommend it is not because it's the easiest, but because it it's the best all-in-one solution for productivity, email, file storage, Teams, chat. You're getting a lot of tools right out of the box in one box. So you're not trying to connect Zoom, Slack. I don't know what else you connect, but that sounds like a lot of passwords to forget. And this is not a plug for Microsoft. I'm not paid. I just think that it is truly the best business solution, even for businesses of one. I also think you need an accounting software, even, even though I hate QuickBooks. I don't know if there's really a better recommendation. You got to pay your taxes. So you should be optimizing and tracking your expenses so that you minimize your taxes. So, an email solution in QuickBooks is where I'd really start. The other thing I would say to go ahead and set up, because this is just really dead simple, and it, by the way, solves a lot of problems that QuickBooks creates, is to set up I would use a credit card. So set up a business credit card tied to your business so you have really clean financing. That's not a tech stack recommendation. My recommendation, though, is to set up a credit card that is through a business management fintech platform. This is something that, has come to pass in the last 2 years. Definitely not something I did long ago. I use Ramp card for one business, for our consulting business, our largest business. And I use Mercury and their credit card for another business. And so I am one of the few people who has actually tested both experiences. What I'll say is this. First, they both offer similar features in that you have a credit card, which, you get cash back on it. The cash back deal is pretty good. It's not why I have it. They both, though, automatically recognize after a little bit of setup, 5 minutes of setup, literally, it's that easy. They categorize things with like amazing accuracy over in QuickBooks. So it reduces a lot of bookkeeping drag. And so that's why I recommend you use it. My preference over the two strongly has been Ramp. I think that their UI and feature set has expanded in a really, like their roadmap has been really smart. And they manage all of our accounts payables. They allow us to pay bills regardless of how someone wants to get paid. I can pay them through the credit card. We set up bank transfers. We can do like all of the stuff is easy, all in one platform. And then they have, if you're a vendor, they have invoicing resources that you can use. We don't use those because it's just not how our business works. But really easy. I have nothing but pretty good things to say about Ramp. And so if I was to start from day one, I would probably start there. Now, if we're talking about day two, so you're kind of into this business, so you're a couple months in or you're a couple of years in, there's like two other areas I would add to the tech stack. So now we're going from like peanut butter and jelly to club sandwich. I would definitely add a project management software. What do I mean? I mean, stop writing a to-do list, which is how I got myself into this pickle in the first place, and start running a Kanban board. I use Asana. Asana has been a ridiculously helpful unlock for me to get more done. I was having a conversation with a founder that I'm an advisor to yesterday, and she was talking about I think she has her own same type of solution that she built in Notion. Okay, so a Notion, Asana, Monday. There's a planner tool and right out of the box in the Microsoft 365 package that works perfectly fine for this. But she's like, I could never get as much done as I get done without this Kanban board approach to organizing my work. We do use it as a business, as project management, but it is managing the project of me when I was running client work and business development and the operation and the 2x2. And by the way, like a family of a husband who's an entrepreneur with 3 boys, like it's all in Asana, which means it's all on my phone at all times. It's awesome. So that's that's the cheese in your club sandwich. And then let's throw in the other layer, which I said I'd come back to. Here we are, is AI. So this one, how do we use AI? Let's just baseline. We use it for a lot of content creation. I hate to tell you this, but a lot of the articles you read from the 2x2 and the prep for this podcast, it's all done by AI, right? Like it's our helper behind the scenes. I also use it with writing emails. It's like a calculator. It just helps me get my thoughts organized faster. And then we use it for research. I surprisingly don't use it that much in, I thought I would use it more in like real substantive work. I really don't use it much. I find that it only gets me so far, but we use it for those purposes. And what I would say is I don't really think the platform matters. I have heard great feedback about, obviously, we're getting good feedback now about Claude and Gemini. We primarily have used ChatGPT Plus because that's what was the best about 6 months ago. And so that's kind of how we locked in. We're going to start using Claude and probably pay for the first $20 offer to have it connect to all of our things in the back end, but and just kind of see what each model does best. I think it doesn't matter because I think all the AI solutions are going to trend to be kind of model agnostic and allow you to choose. So who cares as long as it works for you? But I do think just at least choosing one and paying for that first upgrade is probably a good $20 a month. All right. Let's see what I wrote. Anything else? No, that's the gist of it. I mean, that's the kind of basic stack that I think any consultant that's running their business, like a business, needs. Okay, now this is an interesting question, hitting a pain point for me. Should I hire an accountant or is QuickBooks enough? Okay. I don't have an accountant. I mean, I guess we have a tax accountant that prepares our taxes, but I don't have a monthly bookkeeper. I do have a husband that helps, that's pretty adept in QuickBooks. I have an MBA. I have a pretty solid understanding of basic small business accounting. I don't feel like especially now that I have Ramp to do the majority of our bookkeeping work, that admin task is gone. It's just not something I think we would get a lot of value for the cost of an accountant, just keeping them on payroll or on retainer. However, if you don't have that solid understanding of accounting, I think my recommendation would be different. I do use QuickBooks, and like I said, it connects to Ramp. So we do use it like for all invoicing. There are processes, monthly close processes. We run our business like a finance organization would run their business. I even use the treasury setup in Ramp. So we are moving money to higher interest accounts automatically on different days of the month. So, maybe because of my background, I have a little bit more of a sophisticated view on it's not sophisticated, experienced view on how to do this. But I think QuickBooks is not an accountant. And if you don't feel comfortable with basic P&L reporting, understanding how that feeds into your taxes, I would think having at least a minimum, a decent bookkeeper is a good investment. All right. Okay. This one is probably because I talk about Ramp all the time. Again, like they're not paying me. If you want to use our link is below. We'll put the link in the show notes. I think that gives both of us a discount, but it's, that's kind of what we get. We get a little bit of cash back. You'll get it too. I think it's a pretty minimal amount of spend. But should I subscribe to Ramp if I already have a credit card for my business? Again, like goes back to this idea of running your finances like a business. A Ramp is like in and of itself, just like QuickBooks in and of itself isn't a financial or accounting system. What it gives you is expense tracking. It gives you that bookkeeping sync to QuickBooks, allows you to make vendor payments. We use it, like I said, we use it for treasury. So that's helpful for cash management. It has some travel features, which I don't think are as good as Amex, but they're simple if that appeals to you. I would say like it's the lettuce, like it's the one I said was a cheese before. Maybe it's the one thing that really does reduce a lot of friction for me is like having a credit card that has a really easy usable platform that I can open and see. So take that for what it's worth. All right. Which is better? Okay. This is like the two opposing forces here. Which is better, Microsoft or Google Workspace? Reality is whatever your clients use is probably the better answer. We work with enterprise. They all run on Outlook. Our meetings sync. They don't look funny when I send them in Microsoft. If nothing else, that's worth it to me. I think if you used Microsoft and all of your clients were running Google, I don't know if that's going to look strange on their end. I think out of the box, take that out of the consideration set. Out of the box, I think you get a more robust product with Microsoft. And it's a pretty decent value because like one subscription pays for all of those tools. I just name them again, like the ones that we find valuable. We don't need Dropbox. Maybe think about this. What did I cancel? Dropbox. I don't need Dropbox because I have, cloud storage on SharePoint, which I run through Teams. 2, I don't need Slack because it runs through Teams chat. 3, I don't need Zoom because I use Teams. 4, I don't really have a lot of use for another like password solution because I have one password with security, both on my desktop and on my PC, your authenticator. I've got, I don't need Calendly. We canceled Calendly because bookings takes its place and bookings allows us to, if you're on your own, not as important, but for us with a team, it allows us to kind of shuffle some meetings between whoever is available when we're doing, mainly we use that for recruiting, but that is helpful. We have explored we use Copilot. I will tell you the one place where I do find it useful as an add on to Teams, it records the call and the recording features and the summarization feature and Clipchamp, the video editing feature. I actually do use that. So I don't need another thing for that. But that for us, Copilot has been very useful. Do not find the Microsoft 365 Copilot to be useful at all, frankly. I am excited to learn how to use Copilot Studio and have that work with our backend business processes with Power Automate. Although I don't know if this dog can learn new tricks like that, but I do think I do think we should be able to put that together and it is all in one place. What else? I mean, those are the basics, but that's a lot of basics. I will also tell you this from my experience. If you're not a backend, if you're not a developer, you don't have a developer like digital management background, migrating domains across different email providers or hosting providers is really painful. I know because I had to do it. It was very unintuitive for me. I think I now have a base understanding of DNS records, but if I'm saying DNS records and you don't know what that is, just know that this choice is one you're going to make once. You don't want to have to go back and change it. All right. How do you manage calendars or workflows if I don't have a team? What do we mean by that? I don't know if I know what that question really means to ask. With calendars, we use, I manage my own calendar. I don't think there's anything special there. I use bookings, like I said, for things I used to use Calendly for. And workflows, we do use Asana. So I've, created basic workflows around our kind of monthly invoicing in Asana. I don't know if I have a real great answer for this one. I don't know if I understand the question. So if you submitted this question, you can send me a note and try and clarify. I'll get back to you privately. Okay. How to use ChatGPT for your business. I think it's best used. So we talked about how we use it for the use cases around content creation, but I think the most valuable piece for me, a thought partner for me, where I really value the thought partnership is in business development. Like I said, I don't use it. I didn't, and I don't think I would use it in my client work much. I think the deep research feature I have used to inform proposals, and that's certainly been a time saver. I do feel like that's one set of sources and input. It's not the only source that I would ever use. I mean, there's no substitute for taking the ideas and going and following your own trail, not thinking that think about it this way. If you're doing research and you're trying to figure out how something works, I would not fully rely on the learning model to go and chase the breadcrumbs on a problem to figure out the why something happens and then why does that happen and then why does that happen. There's too many decisions and too many opportunities to think at every step of that process of going deep into something. And the way that we learn and ultimately the way that we add value is by building up our knowledge at those moments of the process. So I can't give the process fully away because then I will never be able to talk through that and think in real time with a client if I haven't gone through that process myself. Now, what it can do though is go through, if I go through a why, I will ask it questions and I will, I will ask, go look at it this way. Now turn it around and look at it this way and kind of spar with it a bit. But for me, I've been doing this for 25 years. That's how I work. What I have not been doing for 25 years, though, is business development. And I second guess myself a lot on stuff that is just seemingly simple. Email creation, how do I position this to someone in a way that is positive or adds value to try and get a perspective of what someone else might be thinking about something, like how would a client perceive this candidate versus this candidate. I also use it to help our candidates prep for interviews with a client. And so our process at Keen and Read, what I almost always give almost always give two candidates to the client for every opportunity, because I think the act of comparing the two is helpful for them to think through, like, who's who and why and how and what skills would really be the best fit to solve a problem. So I like to give two people. That being said, I like to give both of those people full transparency and an equal shot at the job. And so the way I do that, I wrote a GPT that writes a briefing document for them. And so after I've talked to them and interviewed them and talked to the client and have like a bunch of inputs, I put all of those inputs into the GPT and I ask it to write this called a dossier, to write the dossier for each individual person. And in that dossier, I ask it to think through how they can position their strengths and what are the questions that the client might ask them that are not aligned to their strengths, and how can they honestly like position answers, or what they should be thinking about as preparation. Since we've been doing that now, I've been doing that, gosh, I mean, at least 6 months, maybe 9 months. And it has made a huge difference in the quality of the candidate and client first introductory calls. Like an amazing difference. So that has been a real unlock for me. So think about, take that as you will, how your business works. What else do we use it for? Or is it the most helpful for me, I should say? I typically, like, the other area where sometimes I use it, and this is like if I'm having a brain dead day, always start with structure. And when my brain is either tired or, just like not in that space and I can't get to the structure quickly, I ask for help just to get a framework to get the thoughts going. But yeah. So that's really how I have found value from it. What I haven't found value from, maybe, that I would like to, is I'd like to figure out how this coding stuff works so we can use it for the 2x2 to build all sorts of cool stuff. Our operations director in the Philippines, Pam Ignacio, and she's one of our champs on this work behind the scenes. She vibe coded the independent consulting rate calculator and the fractional rate calculator. They are now live on the website. Go check them out. And what you're going to see there is that the calculator is amazing, and she vibe coded that. And we use ChatGPT for all sorts of things behind it. We're not great at design. We have not cracked that nut, but I think that's one that Claude Code or any coding solution is going to help us with. But I feel like a donkey in front of a piano trying to sort that out. So it's low value here for me. So go use that free tool. I'm sorry, it doesn't look so great yet, but content's good, promise. All right, cool. This is another deep question, or another technical question. Do I need to invest in a domain or website at an early stage? All right, domain is one thing. A website is another. Domain, yes, you need it. Go buy it. You need it for your email. You cannot work with a Gmail address, right? We've talked about this. Scold, stop doing that. Website, no, I think it's a complete waste of your time, especially at an early stage. I think you're going to come up with something. It's going to say nothing. You're not going to have any good case studies. You're probably not going to design it well. And it's actually going to hurt your brand more than it helps it. I just, the easy solution is just like a killer LinkedIn profile. Here's why. Two reasons why. Number one, when you meet people, they Google you. If you don't have a lot of background on the web, you know what comes up? Your LinkedIn. They've figured out how to make it appear. So why bother putting something else out there when they've solved this problem for you? So they'll go there. Yeah, I guess maybe I only had one good reason. That's why, just like, how many early stage consultants I hear talking about setting up their HubSpot. Stop wasting the time doing that. It's just like so not worth it. Just get a really killer LinkedIn page. We've got materials. Just Google it. Just everybody's going to tell you how to do this. Just start simple. Domain, yes. Website, go kick the can till later. All right. How do you keep, this is a good one, security. We live in a world where we've all seen a lot of really nasty, disgusting files come out recently. What boggles my mind is that people didn't abide by the golden rule of email, which is never write anything to anyone in any form if you would be embarrassed to see it on the cover of the Wall Street Journal. So you would be embarrassed to see something in the Wall Street Journal if you had a security leak. That would be a problem for you your reputation. And I'm not even saying, I mean, obviously, if it's something that you said in an email, that would be horrible. But if it is sensitive or confidential client information, my opinion, you know, it's equally reputationally damaging. So you need security. It is not a joke. If you use a Google Workspace, you need to upgrade and ensure that you are using the secure version of the workspace. It's really important. This also goes for a authenticator app using to secure the email app on your phone. Minimum efficient. You must do this. It is not hard. Go do it now. Do not store passwords. No password 123s. There are many password manager solutions out there. I actually find them really confusing and useless. I have in my own system for managing passwords. I'm not going to say what that is, obviously. Use a password manager if you can. If not, no worries, but no password 123. This is not a problem that you can, this is not something you can delay to later. I think it's really important. The other thing I would say here is, as a protection mechanism, business insurance or as an emissions insurance and security and cybersecurity insurance. If you're a business of one, this is relatively inexpensive. I think with business insurance, the thought is, well, why do I need this in the line of work I'm in? And that's kind of how I used to see it. It's like, well, strategy. It's not like at least the strategy work I do isn't building financial models where it would have my work would have a direct financial impact on the business because I modeled something wrong. It's just not the nature of my work. And in the case of broad commercial strategy or transformation strategy, it's very rare in my career that I've given a recommendation that was I'm an expert. Lauren is going to do this. What I'm usually doing is facilitating the team to do that. So it would be nearly impossible for me to be personally and individually liable for something. So I always felt not that it's impossible, but it's pretty low risk. And so I felt now, why do I need insurance? Well, I think because sometimes these things happen. And I think because of hacks and cybersecurity, that is a much, much, much more likely, thing to happen. And let's imagine a scenario where you worked for Disney, was your client, and you saw their parks roadmap for the next 2 years in the course of your work. And that file got cached in your cached in your hard drive. Is that right? But it got cached in your system somewhere and then you got hacked. And that image was then put on Disney, investor blogs. You don't want that to happen. So I think we're talking about edge cases, but the cost of this is typically, even our business is $200. It's just not much. And so I think it's a worthwhile investment, although not part of your tech stack technically, but part of your security stack. All right. That is the end of the questions. So thank you for listening to this. I hope that at least one of my thoughts on these questions were helpful. I just want to reiterate here that your tech stack is really designed to reduce friction and support work as it actually happens. My guidance is to start small. Think about what you need base case. It's really just 2 things and then add from there. One general thought I'll leave you with is about how do I know that this is work? Tools should reduce clicks, not add more clicks and complexity to your system. So if something comes in and it's reducing clicks, that's, you've made a good decision. I'll also say generally, there wasn't a question about that, but when do you upgrade? I would upgrade to either to a paid level or to a higher paid level only when it's really saving clicks or when it allows you to consolidate multiple systems into one. That can be useful. And so that's it. So my core 4, again, Microsoft 365 on a ramp and Chat GPT plus with a big asterisk that I don't think it really matters which platform you use as long as you're using one. And that is all. We've got 2 great articles. One is on the website. I think it's one of our most read articles. And then we're doing a new piece on the core 4 and your tech stack, which will come out shortly. I don't know exactly when this podcast will come out, but I've seen the draft. It exists, so I know it's coming out soon. So thanks for listening, everybody. And that's it. That's fun.